All right, guys, I think like that. It says we're live. Welcome back to another live session. It's Mike Mutzel here. Super excited as always that you're showing up, that you're tuning in. I imagine that a lot of you are going to be watching this replay. We are streaming this live, but I wanted to just share with you a few tips and insights from some articles that I've been reading that I'm going to be making a much more detailed and elaborate video on. But today what I wanted to share with you is, and I thought you might benefit from understanding this information, is this study that looked at 10 overweight men, and they did an adipose tissue biopsy in the two different groups. So they had 5 individuals, they randomized them to fast for 12 hours and then do some aerobic exercise for 60 minutes. They had another group, this is called the fed group. What they had them do is they fasted for 12 hours, came into the lab, had about a 600 calorie meal. The links to the video are going to be, or the study are going to be below. And then what they did is they did adipose tissue biopsies to look at how eating before the same exercise session affected the genetic expression of key metabolic enzymes within the fat cells. And there was a dramatic difference between the two groups. And I think this is important for a lot of you that are trying to figure out, okay, how can I get the best bang from my buck when I exercise? And so it's an important study. Now, let me just be totally clear here, and in the upcoming video that I'm gonna share, so if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so, because I've been working, gosh, I wanna say it's about 40 hours now, studying extensively all the different fed versus fasted exercise studies to see what the differences is in terms of 24-hour fatty acid oxidation. Because obviously, we can go to the gym, we can bust our butt, we can burn fat while we work out, but really the magic, what we want to have happen is to elevate the kind of the resting metabolic rate of our bodies, number one, and number two, increase the amount of fat oxidation that occurs in the post-exercise window over the course of 24 hours, because that's going to lead to maximal fat loss. So if you like that idea, hit that like button, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and let's continue to dive into this study. Now, here's what I think is interesting. This is I'm looking a little bit far away. So this is the non-esterified fatty acid levels. And basically this is the ratio of, let's see, this one was the area under the curve. So this was how much free fats were being liberated from the fat tissue of these overweight individuals that were randomized either to do a steady state hour cardio session at 60% VO2 max in a fasted state or in a fed state. You don't need to be a scientist to understand the implications of what you're seeing right here. Okay, there's a dramatic increase in the release of fatty acids from the adipocytes during a fasted cardio session versus a fed cardio session. This is really important, guys, because, look, if you're trying to split hairs when it comes to cardiovascular aerobic exercise, you're going to burn more fat in a fasted state. This is one of about a bazillion studies that have shown this. Why is that? Well, it might have to do with insulin dynamics. And here's a study. Here is the data below about insulin regulation, the differences in the fasted and the fed state. Okay. So again, I know some people in the calorie counting community are going to say, well, it's all about energy balance. And then if you're a keto advocate, they're going to say, well, you're just promoting insulin fairies, and insulin doesn't, cause weight gain and all this. Well, clearly I just showed on the last screenshot from the study that there's a dramatic disparity in the amount of free fatty acids that are released from fat cells in fed versus fasted overweight individuals that are exercising, being that the fasted individuals release a lot more free fatty acids. Okay, now, where are those free fats going to go? Well, hopefully if you're working your muscles, they will, undergo beta oxidation or ketogenesis. So they'll either be burned directly via beta oxidation to make ATP to move your muscle, or they will be reconverted into ketones in your liver so that tissues like your brain and your muscle tissues systemically can utilize the ketones, okay? So clearly there is a connection here between insulin and the suppression of the release of free fatty acids. Now, this is not news to a lot of people. Now, what the calorie counting community is going to say, well, if you burn more fat during your exercise, then that's going to pivot your body into burning more glucose in the post-exercise window. And actually, according to the research that I've been diving into, that's not always true. It depends on the study that you look at. So Here's where this is what I think is really interesting. So you're not going to see my face, which is totally fine for many of you. And by the way, the links to the study are below. So they did the adipose tissue biopsy in 2 different groups, meaning the fasted group, again, they're only doing a 12-hour fast. And then the fed group, what they did is, remember, they had about a 400-calorie meal. It was largely carbohydrate based. It was like a muffin and some cereal and some fat and protein and stuff like that. But here's what you're seeing here is a dramatic change, a dramatic difference in the expression of genes within the adipose tissue. And I want to make here this particular picture. Where'd it go? Right here. All right. So what you're gonna, I'm back. Hey again. So what you're gonna see here is the statistically significant differences in key metabolic genes, namely AMPK, there's adipose tissue triglyceride lipase, there's hormone-sensitive lipase, what else is there? PDK4, I'm not familiar with PDK4, but AMPK. Let's talk about AMPK, because AMPK is dramatic, well, as many of you know, this is one of the key kinases, intracellular enzymes, that's involved in kickstarting autophagy. So many of you are interested in autophagy. You want to enhance autophagy. Well, if you want to enhance autophagy, particularly in your adipose tissue, because remember, autophagy might be tissue specific. There could be, different tissue increases or decreases based upon, what the circumstances are. But if you want to increase autophagy, and by the way, there's a subset of autophagy called lipophagy, which is the liberation or breakdown of fat within fat tissue and muscle tissue. So clearly, the main driver of both mitochondrial biogenesis and autophagy is AMPK. AMPK is statistically significantly increased in fasted, overweight individuals when they do cardio compared to individuals that have food beforehand. I know I'm talking fast. I just had my myoscience pre-workout. After this, I'm going to hit chest and bicep. So, links are below. If you want that, it's sucralose free, very low amount of caffeine. It's bound to a co-crystal called pterostilbene, so it has good pharmacokinetics, meaning you're not gonna be restless all night if you have it during the day. It's called clean pre-workout, which is below. But long story short, to me, this is really interesting. Now, let me throw out a caveat, guys. This is not the end all be all. This doesn't mean that all the time. This is a big take home point number 2, that just because you burn more fat during a fasted exercise session, that doesn't always mean that every single exercise session should be fasted. I want to clarify that because I think we need to be a little bit more precise. I was going to say precision. We need to be more precise about our exercise. So this is what I personally do, and this is what a lot of athletes have been doing for a long time. My mentor, Greg, who taught me all about this back in 2001, is this. When you do cardio, if you want to optimize fat loss, do it fasted. Now, if you want to do resistance training to build muscle, you don't necessarily always get the best benefit when you're fasted. And this is the final study that we're going to review. And because the last study was all men as subjects, this is all female subjects. Here's what's unique. I can't remember the whole duration of the study. I just wanted to throw this out there because I do get a lot of questions from women about resistance training and should they eat before they do resistance training or should they fast or whatever. This study clearly showed that 1 rep, so strength basically. So they standardize strength through different Olympic lifts and power lifts like bench press, military press, squat, deadlift, right? And what they found is that pre and post workout nutrition compared to nothing led to greater increases in strength in women, but it didn't negatively affect body composition. Let me say that again. So long story short, if you have intra-workout or post-workout nutrition and resistance training is your exercise du jour, you will get stronger and better gains than if you have nothing. Does that make sense? So to clarify, we've reviewed 2 studies now. The first study that we reviewed was in overweight men that were either fasted for 12 hours and did exercise. It was 60% VO2 max for an hour. Or the other group that was randomized to either fast for 12 hours, go into the lab, do some exercise, the same exercise session, 1 hour at 60% VO2 max. We saw but yet they had food beforehand. It was basically a high carb, low fat, moderate protein meal. what they found is there was a huge amount of insulin being released in the group that ate compared to the group that was fasted. There was a dramatic and statistically significant change in gene expression in adipose tissue, okay? And so there was a lot of differences. And the group that was fasted had a dramatic increase in the amount of free fatty acids that are released. I'm going to get to that in a moment. Now, that's study number one. Study number two was in women that were doing resistance training. And in the two different study groups, they either had intra-workout or post-workout nutrition versus nothing, versus basically they weren't doing it fasted, but they hadn't eaten for a few hours before they trained. They followed these women over the course of, I think it was 10 weeks. What they found is that the individuals got stronger when they had food before resistance training or during resistance training compared to the individuals that had nothing. Okay, so we have cardio versus resistance training. If I'm just going to give you my anecdotal advice based upon feedback, working with clients, lifting weights for almost 22 years now, what I would say is do cardio fasted, okay? Don't beat yourself up over it. Like if you are feeling lethargic and you're not going to have a good cardio session, have a little bit of food, maybe protein and fat, not so much carbohydrates. Now, if you're going to do powerlifting, Olympic lifting, lift weights like I advocate and recommend you do, I don't recommend always doing that fasted. I don't think there's a lot of benefits to that, okay? Now, the thing about this study that I do want to highlight right here, the main takeaway that I think is important for you to understand is in terms of body compositional changes, there was no disadvantage to having intra-workout or post-workout nutrition. Meaning that if you do resistance training as your main exercise modality, eating during it, before it, or after it is not going to make you more fat compared to doing it fasted. But you will get stronger if you eat before, during, or after resistance training. Does that make sense? Let me check into the comments here, guys. Now, if you're digging this content, hit that like button. I'll be following your comments after the fact, after we stream this. Now, guess what, guys? For those of you guys that and gals that tune in quite a bit, I haven't talked about the autofocus. I haven't talked about the audio. I'm just getting right to it because I listened to your comments and I want to thank you for criticizing me when necessary and saying, Mike, quit talking about the audio crap. Just freaking dive into it. So I just dove into it. I didn't say crap about audio focus or whatever. I'm probably out of focus. You probably can't hear me, whatever. But hopefully you're digging the content. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link these studies below. And if we're not yet connected over on Instagram, I'm at metabolic_Mike. That's metabolic_Mike on Instagram. So I share these type of studies pretty much every single day. And I have another good one that I'm going to post after we hang up this call. Hang up the call, Mike? No, after we end the YouTube. So that's what we're doing here, guys. Super excited as always that you're here. Thanks for being here. If you're enjoying this content, hit that like button. That just lets me know that I should do more stuff like this, even if sometimes audio is not perfect or I'm out of focus because my camera is driving me nuts lately. So exciting stuff. Let's go back here again because I see quite a few of you are on now and just quickly review the study that compared the overweight men that did aerobics basically in a fasted state or in a fed state. The increase here in AMPK, right? Let me move this guy. All right, so you can see that. So AMPK, do you see it right there? Boom, boom. Now you see it. That looks kind of funny. But adenosine monophosphate kinase, so this is the key transcription factor. It's not a transcription factor, Mike. It's a kinase. It's an enzyme. It's a key signaling molecule that not only kickstarts autophagy, but it enhances mitochondrial biogenesis. So this is something that I want you to focus on, right? So, because I know so many of you now are trying to optimize autophagy, trying to increase autophagy, trying to get all the benefits that's ascribed to autophagy enhancement. AMPK is going to be your friend. So point number 3 that I want to recommend here is if you're going to, if you're interested in enhancing autophagy, do exercise fasted. Even when you're doing your fast. This is a key point here because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm doing a 36-hour fast, a 48-hour fast. I don't want to increase or I don't want to do exercise because exercise increases mTOR and all that. What you need to keep in mind is the context. Okay, a pulsatile increase in mTOR is not going to cause cancer. Chronically elevated mTOR, probably problematic. Okay, so we want these different kinases and enzymes to be, kind of hormetically induced, meaning that they ebb and flow. So with exercise, you're going to increase AMPK. You should not be fearful of exercise increasing mTOR, inhibiting a fast, causing cancer, or anything crazy like that. Whew. All right. I shouldn't take my Myoscience pre-workout before I do these things, but like I said, I have only 45 minutes to do a chest workout after we get done. All right, so I'm going to take some questions from you guys. And one thing too, we're having a sale on all the grass-fed whey protein. Let me just turn it to you guys so you guys can see this over at myoscience.com. Normally, this is $95 per bottle. Why is it so expensive? Because this is one of the only grass-fed, grass-finished whey proteins out there that's not amalgamated with soy lecithin. It's non-GMO sunflower lecithin. It tastes amazing. Links are below. It's over 50% off. So you can save on that. You don't have to take whey protein, but I personally like it if I'm doing resistance training, not cardio, but resistance training. So let's get into some of the questions that you have here. Maura, thanks for being here. Hey there from Australia. Someone says, what's the health problems for doing OMAD for a year? Maybe nutritional deficiencies. I'm not really sure. My wife's been doing it now for 4 months. She swears by it. She's more ripped. She's more lean. She's more energetic, better mood, all this sort of stuff. Mackie Mark C says, what would you suggest for someone who wants to gain muscle but lose fat? What I would suggest for everyone, but honor your body's circadian rhythms. Like, make sure that you're getting good sleep. Growth hormone needs to be increased. Testosterone needs to be increased. If you want to build muscle and burn fat, you need to resistance train. You need to hit that muscle. So we have a great course over at courses.highintensityhealth.com that will teach you how to squat, how to deadlift, how to press properly. Of course, you can follow Westside Barbell over on Instagram. I would follow Mark Bell. I would follow Brett Contreras. We've had a podcast with him. It's going to post very soon. Stan Efforting, right? We've interviewed a lot of these different people. Just had Ben Pakulski on the podcast. Actually, Mackie, go check that out. It was the last interview that we did. I'm posting another one with Ken Berry on Sunday. But that interview with Ben Pakulski has great information on how to periodize your exercise and workouts. So resistance training is going to be your friend. Tampa checking in. What's up, Bruce? Someone says, nice graphic, bringing light to amazing details. Thanks for being here again, my man. ADRN, you're here all the time. Thanks for that, bud. Leah Dove says, yes, makes sense. Brandon says, love your content. Thanks for that. And again, thanks for hanging with me, guys, because I know some of these lives have been totally shitty. I got to be honest with you. Remember, sometimes like it's out of focus and all this. I think I'm hopefully in focus, but it's not as crisp as normally because we got stuff coming from the camera to the computer. It encodes it and then pushes it to YouTube, and it's not 100% perfect, but we're doing what we can. Anthony says he likes the content. Mr. Kelty Broadstone says, will microdosing psilocybin kick me out of a fast? I highly doubt it. So there's very little carbohydrates in that. I doubt it. So I do my microdosing on Thursday and Sunday. I miss this week. Sometimes I take a week off, but it's probably, if anything, it will enhance your, I don't know. I shouldn't speak on psilocybin and autophagy. I don't know that there's anything there. All right, so Jamie says, explain insulin resistance in muscle after a fast more in depth. Yeah, so long story short, when you're in a fasted state, your body is trying to divert glucose to tissues that need and that have no other option but to utilize glucose. Various neurons within the brain, the retina, red blood cells, for example. So there's this whole notion of causing insulin resistance within your muscle tissue because your muscle tissue can burn ketones and fats for fuel. Your muscle tissue can utilize fatty acids and ketones for fuel, whereas your red blood cells, your neurons, and so forth can't. So if you're fasting for more than, say, 20, 24, 36 hours, it all depends on the individual, how insulin sensitive they are, and so forth. There is some insulin resistance that occurs in the post-fast window. That's why you don't want to break your fast with carbohydrates. Great question. Thanks for answering, bringing that question to my attention. Okay, Jade F says, if you were trying to lower insulin, is it still okay to eat carbs before the workout? So Jade, it really depends on the type of exercise that you're doing. If you're trying to lower insulin, eating carbs is not a good idea, but I would say, I shouldn't say that. If your goal is to improve insulin sensitivity, eating a bunch of carbs is not going to help you get closer to that goal. However, if you do decide to have carbohydrates, exercise will obviously help you in the post-meal window become more insulin sensitive. So there's a few different things you got to consider there. It depends on your goals. It depends on the exercise. It depends on what type of carbs you have and how much you have. All right. Jill Miller says, audio and focus is perfect. Is that a first, Jill, or what on these lives? I can't even believe it. Intern RN says, hey, Mike, can you talk to us about various ways of maintaining healthy, lean muscle benefits through our biochemistry? Intern RN, that's a longer conversation than we have time for today, but I'm going to take a screenshot of your question and I will address that. But long story short, Intern RN, and I don't want to plug Myoscience too much here, but that's why I created the company Myoscience. I came up with the name back in 2012 because muscle science, like the key to your metabolism, is contingent upon your lean muscle mass. Your lean mass determines how much fat you burn for fuel, if you're going to live independently, a lot of different things. So that's why I built this supplement company, Myoscience. We're going to do a lot more education about muscle tissue, how to maintain it, how to optimize muscle through healthy sleep, through exercise, through micronutrition, and much more. So I will get your question in much more depth down the road. Hello, Lolly says, hello from Colorado. What is up? I miss my Colorado. We're going to be in Colorado, I think end of June. I was there twice so far this year for Low Carb Denver and a ski trip with my buddies that we do every single year. So I think we've talked about this on Instagram. Deanna and I met in Denver. I was living in Boulder at the time, and then we lived in the Highlands for a while. So anyone that lives in Colorado, the Highlands is this hot neighborhood. It's basically right near downtown, and we love living there. It's a great spot. Stefan, what's happening? He says, the resistance trainers who fasted, were they fat adapted? No, they were not. So yeah, you're right. That could change the result. And so that's the thing here is we're not, Stephen Finney has shown that fat adapted athletes compared to carb heavy, athletes, there's a huge statistically significant difference in the amount of fat they oxidize and liberate during exercise. So key point here. So these were just sedentary overweight men that one group did a 12-hour fast, one group did a 12-hour fast and then ate some food, and then they both exercised for the same duration, okay? So good question here. John Mole, is your wife consuming fewer calories on OMAD? Yeah, John, that's a great question. Is she consuming fewer calories? She didn't track calories before and she's not tracking them now. So you could be onto something, John, but we don't know. We don't track calories around here. Not that it's bad if you do, but I think it leads to behavioral imbalances associated with food. And you start to look at food as though it's like this arbitrary unit of energy. And it's not a good thing to do. I think it can be helpful initially so that you get a baseline of where things are at. Long-term, probably not necessary. Not practical either for that matter. Gig Harbor in the house. Jill, what is up? So you're back and you had a nice comment earlier. I remember you and you're here a lot. So Jill, thanks for being here. I do enjoy my Gig Harbor and I'm sure that today it's beautiful in Gig Harbor. All right. So Joe says, I take a pre-workout 15 minutes, a pre-workout after a 15-hour fast. Does that affect autophagy? Well, Joe, it depends on what's in your pre-workout. I don't know. Our pre-workout, the Myoscience pre-workout doesn't have a lot of crap in it. It just has a little bit of stevia, a small amount of silicon and maltodextrin for flow because it is in stick packs. So you need something so that they flow and there's not a lot of friction. But synthetic sweeteners, a lot of weird, crazy stuff. It might affect your fast, but I don't know. But if you're going to exercise after you take it, it probably is a wash. Probably not a big deal unless it has a lot of sugar in there. So someone, shiny thing says perfect is not necessary. Thanks for that. I'm not striving for perfection. I just don't want crap when I present these videos and stuff like that. So thanks for that, guys. Thanks for being here. So final question here. Annie says, best length of time to fast daily for the most weight loss? Well, I think on the minimum, it's 12 hours. On the optimum, it's probably somewhere between 16 and 18 hours. That's what I would say. But again, it doesn't have to be every single day, guys. Look, on the weekends, you have family, you're going to brunch, you're hanging out with your friends, whatever. But just practice the 80-20 rule. If you could fast 80% of the time on a daily basis for 16 to 18 hours and maintain that and not overeat when you do eat, you're probably going to be all right. So that's it. Have an awesome weekend. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you're not already, because I have a lot of good videos posting this weekend. And if you take whey protein, we have a bunch of this on sale right now. Grass-fed, grass-finished, New Zealand-derived, pasture-raised whey protein, less than 50% off. We have a bunch of the chocolate left. So if you're a whey protein user, this is the stuff we take. I've been taking this exact protein probably 2007, since 2007. It's a really good brand, really good raw material. I know the raw material vendors, it's really good stuff. So I'm offering it to you guys at a really good price. The suggested retail on this from the raw material supplier is $94 per bottle. And the difference is it's a whey protein concentrate, not a whey protein isolate. So the whey protein isolates, guys, just a small little note, they strip out the immunoglobulins, the lactoferrin, all the beneficial immune health promoting factors are gone from the whey isolates. So if you're going to get a whey protein, whatever the brand is, you want grass-fed, pasture-raised, and a whey protein concentrate. So you're getting those beneficial immunoglobulins that are good for gut health and your immune health. All right. I have exactly 36 minutes to do a chest workout before my gym closes. So I'm going to sign off, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. It really does mean a lot to me. And I appreciate you tuning in, whether you're here live now or watching the replay. Your viewership, your subscription means a lot to me, and I'm grateful for you. So have a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll catch up with you soon. Have a good one, guys. Appreciate you.